Good evening, everybody, or sorry, good morning, everybody. This is Reed Cohen of Imprint Tours and ready for another installment of Where in the World. We're finishing up our Southern Africa week. Unfortunately, I failed to remove my Bratislava background, so I apologize for that. I'm going to take us to Southern Africa and a PowerPoint presentation in just a moment here. This will be our last installment for this week, accepting, of course, the fact that we could not bring you our virtual tour in Johannesburg yesterday with Todd Mentz. So we're going to try to reschedule that some point further down the road. Okay, without further ado, let me just take a few moments and get us set up for the PowerPoint here. And I'm just going to set up to share my screen. Let's see here. This is what we want. And switch that over to this. Let's see here. Now, last time I got the display settings wrong. Let's see if we can fix this a little bit. No. There we go. That's what we want. Okay, please ignore the Bratislava castle behind my head while we jump into Southern Africa. This is, of course, Cape Town in South Africa. Table Mountain, very, very famous. I just put this on as an opening slide. Before I go on talking about the tour, I do want to say this. This is, along with India, the most diverse tour that we have. It's not as diverse as India in terms of sort of something new and jaw-dropping every day, but for visiting the continent of Africa, if you come on the Southern Africa tour, you're going to see completely different sort of travel ecosystems, 3 or 4 of them. And if you're able to add the Namibia extension on the end, you get another completely new travel ecosystem. So I love this tour. I think it's the perfect introductory tour to Africa. It's got a little bit of everything. As opposed to just safari, right? I mean, it's got a great safari element. We got plenty of great images to show you that, but so much more as well. So let's jump right in. Here's a little map. I'll use my cursor to identify things. Cape Town, all the way down at the bottom, if you can see that, where my cursor is moving around a little bit. But the tour starts all the way up here, right about in the center, a little bit right of center, is Victoria Falls. It's where Zambia and Zimbabwe come together. The Zambezi River is the border between those two, and it comes tumbling over that escarpment in rather dramatic fashion. And then right next door is Botswana. So we're gonna be visiting Victoria Falls, Chobe National Park just to the left there in Botswana. Then we'll fly down to Cape Town, spend some time there. And then for those who are able to move up into Namibia for the tour's extension. Victoria Falls is just a spectacular destination. I like this little map, this little stylized map, because it really lays out the national park there. You see the falls in the background, but there's this huge plateau, if you will, just opposite the falls. I mean, that's what makes these falls so dramatic, is that you are able to get so close. Look at all those viewpoints from 1 to 15. Those are the viewpoints that you can walk out to see and get different angles on the falls, different photographs and whatnot. And those angles that I'm going to show you here in just a minute. Take note of Danger Point out there, number 15 on the far right. Danger Point, actually rather appropriately named, because of course this is Africa. There's no guardrails, there's no signs. You can walk right out to that precipice there. And of course, the huge eternal plume of spray that comes from the falls is making everything soaking wet. So the stones are slippery. It's a dangerous place. It's absolutely one you want to visit. You just want to be very, very careful. And I will talk about, before we leave the area, seeing the falls from the Zambia side, which would be to your right of the screen there. You see number 17, Knife Edge. I'll show you a picture of that, and I'll show you how it does change the view of the falls to view it on the Zambia side. Okay. This, let me just back up here. The next shot I'm going to show you is from the perspective of number 2 on this map. Okay, so see where number 2 is. Let me use my cursor over here. Number 2, looking back across the face of the falls. That's the view that you have. I can't promise that there'll always be a rainbow, but there is often a rainbow, because you see that this, as I said, this eternal plume of spray is just ever present there. As a matter of fact, what you want is a nice, when you're there in our springtime, which is at the end of the rainy season, which is where this picture was taken, the thundering power of Moseatunyo, right, which is the native name for Victoria Falls, which translates to the smoke that thunders. Isn't that so much better than Victoria Falls? The smoke that thunders, right? I was saying that when you're there, when the water flow is high, it is just thunderous, right? The ground shakes under your feet, and there is always, always, always the plume of spray. So rainbows, very, very typical. Here's the falls again, pretty much in high flow. This is again back from that sort of position number 2 angle, the first couple of cascades there. Here's a double rainbow a little bit later in the day. Oh, I started to say and got sidetracked. What you want when you're there during the high flow periods is a bit of a breezy day, so that occasionally a gust will come up, sweep the plume away, and boom, then you get your money shot that, of course, everybody wants. This is that danger point, right? This is one of those trails that you saw on the little map up front, and you see the people there trickling out to, this is danger point right out here. There's a little sign and there's some rocks, and you can see that you're very, very close to the falls there. Of course, you're close to the falls everywhere along the way. I think this is an important shot because this is in the fall, our fall. And you see that even when the flow of the Zambezi is at its lowest ebb, the falls are still spectacular, right? And right now we've got our fall 2021 tour scheduled for September. So this is the kind of view that you would have. The advantage of being there at that time of year is it really is a lot easier for photography. Speaking of money shots, everybody wants to have this picture standing in front of the falls. But the reason I've included it here is you see that we provide raincoats for everybody, but I'm here to tell you they don't do any good. When you go to Victoria Falls, you want to dress like you're going to the beach and then cover up with a raincoat, because you're going to get soaked. It cannot be avoided. You're going to get soaked. So I just wanted to show this shot here. Here's a nicer shot of my daughter Maya, her money shot there at Victoria Falls. One of the things that you absolutely must do, and of course we include this in the tour, we always try to make sure that we are including the most representative or the most dramatic, the most exciting activities in any given area. So one of the things you got to do is the Flight of Angels. This is what they call the helicopter ride, and that of course comes from one of the great quotes from Livingston, the Westerner who first laid eyes on Moseatunyo. And he said something about, very poetic, about the flight of angels as he gazed at the falls. So anyway, very appropriately named helicopter ride over the falls. You see the big plume of the falls in the background there of the shot. And then this is what you get to see. And of course, after having shown you those other images, you can see this is the only way to really get the feel for the whole width and breadth of the falls, right, is from the helicopter. This is from further up the Zambezi, looking where the escarpment drops off and the falls are creating that plume. Here he is from sort of, again, from that sort of number 2 vantage point, only from up above. Notice the road off here to the right, right? And this is the bridge, the famous bridge. This is the border between Zimbabwe and Zambia. So here is the border running about here. Up above at the top of your screen is Zambia, at the bottom, Zimbabwe. We stay in Zimbabwe, by the way. Oh, here's a better shot for showing that. You see the falls come down, and then you see that it goes into a little canyon. And by the way, that will zigzag away, geologically speaking, over the eons of time. Every once in a while with the plate tectonics, another chunk will break off. So in the future, there'll probably be a break right about here. If you can follow my cursor, if I'm not moving too fast, you know, a million years from now, it'll break off there and the falls will move back a little bit. And where the falls drop right now will just be one more of those zigzagging canyons that zigzags away. I do want to show you in this shot the bridge, like I said. So over here to the right of the screen is Zambia. And then up here, I just want to point out there's this beautiful resort on the edge of the Zambezi. I'm going to show you a great shot from there a little bit further along. One or two more shots. Oh, this is the zigzagging canyons that spread away from the falls. As you can follow the Zambezi as it zigzags down and will head off into neighboring Botswana there. Number 2 on your list of things to, I mean, obviously seeing the falls is the number 1 thing you're there for, but there's so much to do in this area. They've really developed it for tourism. It's sort of the adventure capital of Southern Africa. There is a private game preserve where there are anywhere between 7 and 10 black rhinos. They're protected. This is fenced off. It's not a zoo at all. There's no guarantee that you'll see them, but the chances of seeing them are very, very high. And because seeing rhinos these days in Africa is really, really, really difficult because so few are left, this is our opportunity to see rhinos in the wild. You can see here up by me, there's they've sawed off the horn. They periodically cut off to posers, and of course the horn grows back, right? So here this guy's about halfway back. And you know, talk about money shot. By the way, it was Todd who gave me this idea of the money shot, right? I'd heard that term before, but he used it earlier this week. I thought that's so appropriate. This is the money shot that you want of a black rhino, and very, very easy to come by because, frankly, these rhinos are used to safari vehicles driving through their home. So there's one with almost all of his horn. He's about ready to have his sheared for his own protection. Another classic experience of Victoria Falls is the Zambezi dinner cruise, or the Zambezi sunset cruise, actually, I should say. They have these great boats. They take you out on the Zambezi. There's an open bar. How fun is that? And you drift on down the Zambezi. You're going to see some wildlife. There's a couple of hippos there. Some snacks, some wine. Okay, after a while, start to have a little bit of fun with the open bar. And of course, you can't come, I don't have a shot. You don't come right to the edge of the falls, but of course you get to a point where you're swinging out there and you see the big plume coming up. Classic tourist activity there in Victoria Falls. Now, something that we add at Imprint Tours that you're not going to get on other tours is I've developed this relationship with this woman. I'm sorry, it's not a great picture of her. Her name is Flatter. She lives in the township here. This is where the locals live. And I arrange with her every time we bring a group to treat the group to lunch, but more importantly, a little Q&A, right? See, we're all sitting there. She's answering questions. So, you know, we always try to build in some genuine cultural connection experience in all of our tours. this is one that we're able to do here that's really a good one at Victoria Falls. Right, these traditional source of protein for the locals around there. They fry them up, and for the intrepid travelers in our groups, everybody gets to try them, and honestly, it's not that bad. They're crunchy, they're salty. It's not unlike popcorn, right? But some people just can't do it. I won't force you. A very important element of this visiting of the township is we have to set aside our Western, not our values, but our kind of Western proclivity to force our values on other people. This is still a male-dominated society. The women eat after the men. This gal is just clearing my plate, but she's gotten down on her knees to do it. They come out and they wash your hands for you. We learn about how marriages are arranged and women are still paid for, and it's very easy to express our Western judgments in a way. What I'm saying is we're visitors. Okay, it looks like I dropped for just a second there. Let me get back to shared screen. Okay, I hope you're still with me here. I was just at the point of saying this is the moment to engage the locals, and of course, when we had some young people with us, that brought the young local kids out of the woodwork. But this is very typical. They want to engage you. They want to try their little bit of English with you. This is a great cultural connection experience. Okay, my advance is not working. What have I lost? There we go. Is that the next shot? Yeah. Another thing we did, we can't guarantee that this will happen on every tour going forward, but we had some free time. We went into the market, and there's this little local bar where they're serving their locally brewed beer, and this is the way they serve it, in a big community cup like that. There I am having my little swig. I got to tell you, this stuff was awful, but when in Rome, do as the Romans do. That's my theory. I know Sarah shares that philosophy with me. I'm fond of saying travel is like the Princess and the Frog. When a frog hops across the path, you have to kiss it, because it could be a prince, but it could also be a warty toad, right? So this was one of those local experiences that we wanted to have. Turned out not to be that great from a Western perspective, but you got to try. That's our attitude. So just to summarize, when we're there at Victoria Falls, we will of course visit the falls. We will have the helicopter ride. We'll have the rhino safari, but of course we spend 4 nights there, 3 full days and 4 nights. There's lots of other activities in the area that you can opt to do that are not included, such as there's this very famous baobab tree. They call it the big tree. You can see from the people there in the foreground the scale. It really is impressive. It's a fun thing to go out and take some pictures of. I mentioned that this is the sort of adventure capital of Southern Africa. You can bungee jump. You can hire a micro, what do they call those? It flies, and there's just a micro glider. I'm struggling with the terminology, but I think you understand what I'm talking about. There's zip lines, there's giant swings, there's all kinds of things to do. You can, I know that riding on elephants has become anathema But you know, I just want you to know that things like this are available, right? A elephant back safari, walk with the lions, walking safaris. There's all kinds of things that can be done. Okay, as promised, this is a view of the falls from the Zambia side. I loved my experience when I did Southern Africa the first time 5 years ago. Of when I was all finished, I crossed the border. I stayed a couple of nights in a hotel there in Livingston, Zambia, and I got to experience the falls on the other side. I feel like it's almost even closer to the falls, if that's possible. Here it is in the summertime when the flow was a little bit lower. And then this is that knife's edge that I pointed out on the map all the way back when we first started talking about Victoria Falls. And again, here's where you can see, probably better than any other image that I've showed you, how and this is like being in the most powerful torrential rain you can imagine. These are big drops, and you do get soaked whether you've got one of those big raincoats on or not. And this is that picture I referred to earlier. This is that resort right on the Zambezi. You can sit here. They'll bring you cold drinks, cold beer. You sit there, and there is the waterfall plume right there at your fingertips. Okay, ready to move on from Victoria Falls. Our first transportation day is a short one. It's only about an hour and 15-minute drive from Victoria Falls. Here they show Livingston, but this is Victoria Falls, Zimbabwe, to the border of Botswana and Chobe National Park here. That's our destination. We stay in a place called Kwalape Safari Lodge. I love Kwalape. By the way, our accommodations in Victoria Falls are very, very luxurious. 4 nights there. We want to kick off the tour. We're in a town. But when it comes time for safari, I have a different philosophy. I mean, I don't really want to be in a luxurious place when I'm on safari. And since Chobe is our primary safari stop on this tour, I much prefer that we stay in a place that is comfortable but not luxurious, right? There's a nice pool there. This is the little bar where you can go and have a cold drink in the evening where we do our group activities, but the accommodations are basic, right? I mean, this is essentially a permanent tent, right? It's on a concrete foundation, but it's got canvas sides, might be a little musty. You just roll up the canvas sides, let some fresh air in. Completely enclosed. They also have I'll call it a motel block with just basic sort of facilities there. Just want to be sure that everybody understands that, you know, that the accommodations, we're not wasting a bunch of our tour funds on fancy digs when we're on safari. Now, one of the great things about Kwalape is they invite this troupe of local native dancers in, right? They're not professional. They just dance for the love of dance. They wear their traditional outfits, and they come and they perform, and they are electric. This is one of the best sort of organized cultural experiences that we have on any tour. These folks will, if you don't want to jump up and dance with them, then we need to check you for a pulse, because it's really a fun evening. I've been known to tear my shirt off and jump in the middle of this. Safari time. I wanted to start with this shot because this is what safari is all about. Look at these people. Look at the way they're engaged by whatever it is they're looking at, whatever, lions, elephants, giraffe, whatever it is. This is what safari is all about. I'm just going to run through these images now because everybody has seen pictures of African wildlife, but these are the sort of things that we see in Chobe National Park. These are the wild dogs. I believe this is a kudu, little baby zebra. Of course, seeing baby anything is always a highlight on any safari day. Elephants, up close and personal. Get that money shot. I have to tell you, I had to pick from hundreds and hundreds of great elephant photos to show you these. Oh, for any birders out there, oh my gosh, is this tour ever a paradise for you? I think this is an African fish eagle. Can't tell you which one this one is. There's another fish eagle. Owls, ibis, hornbills. I think this is one of those bee eaters. My apologies to Bob and Jerry Riley if you've tuned in. They're my birders that travel regularly with Imprint. They're the ones that always have to identify the birds for me. Giraffe are always fun to see, and young ones especially. They're curious. I think this is a roan antelope. And by the way, I don't really apologize for not knowing, because we always have experts with us, right? Our tracker drivers know everything about everything. They know every animal that you're going to see, the birds, the insects, you name it. They know everything, so I don't need to. Here's a leopard that we came across in Chobe. This is back in 2014. Not great shots. They are elusive, of course. But there's a story here, and look at that. Look, see that antelope right there? This is after that. Let me back up. We were driving through the bush. There was a couple of vehicles parked. Our guide called across in the local language to see what was going on. They said there's a leopard in the thicket. So we stopped to wait. We sat there for maybe 10 or 15 minutes, and then, as if it were staged, this antelope came bounding out between us and where we were told the leopard was hiding. And by the way, I want to tell you, even though we knew exactly where the leopard was, I never could pick it out. I never could see it. It was so well camouflaged. But when this antelope came bounding into the foreground, we all knew what was about to happen. So we were ready. We had our cameras ready. And sure enough, the leopard came bolting out like a shot of lightning. He hit the antelope, but wasn't able to bring it down. By the way, this is not a mature leopard. I've seen much bigger ones up in East Africa. This is the aftermath, right? The antelope has escaped the leopard. The leopard's just about ready to give up. The antelope's bleeding, but alive. And you may be asking yourself, why isn't it running? Well, the antelope is much, much faster than the leopard. Once the element of surprise is gone, the antelope has the advantage. And by the way, she's been calling out, with that honking noise that they can make, sort of letting all the other antelope in the area know there's danger here. And there's the leopard heading back. And again, I watched her. I never took my eyes off her. She disappeared under some of these bushes, and she was just gone. And I knew she was still there because she was just going to lay in wait again. But she just absolutely disappeared. Just a phenomenal experience. You're going to see predators, of course, in Chobe. Lions, pretty common. Get that money shot. By the way, these are all either my photographs or those of tour members that I've had on the tours. There's a couple of lion cubs. Again, I have to say it, any sort of baby animals are a highlight. And again, I just have to show you a couple shots of the way that people get engaged when you're on safari. Look at that. That's a money shot for me as a tour operator. Being able to bring people to this moment in their lives is really gratifying. Want to be sure we're not completely roughing it. Every time we go out into the bush, we either have a bush breakfast or at the very least some cookies and hot tea and coffee for everybody. So not too rough out in the bush. And something else that is not to be missed at Chobe National Park is a sunset cruise on the Chobe River. And you can see that these boats, they're just designed strictly for tourists, right? To be out there and get good photographs. Here's one of our groups, which again, this you can all, big deal. You can get people to wave at the camera. This is the money shot for me, right? Where there's, something that has engaged the people in such a powerful way. Here are those bee-eater birds again. Very fascinating the way they have built their homes into the mud banks of the river. There's one up close. Monitor lizards. I mean, you're going to see every kind of wildlife in the area comes down in the evening at the end of the day when the heat is breaking to get their drink, and then they head back into the bush. So monitor lizards, crocodiles, buffalo. This is a baby elephant, and I didn't even have to use my zoom to get this photograph. I mean, our boat is 10 feet away. Elephants swimming out in the river. You might recall when we were talking with Todd on Monday, I talked about we were talking about this exact experience of this boat cruise, and I talked about elephants ripping up salad from the riverbed. This is the image that I had in my mind at that point. Hippos, you're going to see more hippos than you ever imagined. And I believe this is the money shot that Todd was talking about on Monday, right? Of your, and again, I discarded a dozen of these photographs to choose this one, right? You're gonna get this shot. You're gonna be close. Of course, I forgot to point out the very first picture I should have pointed out as people were getting onto the boat, the two crew members were bringing a cooler on board. I wanted you to know that's courtesy of Imprint Tours. We make sure to bring a well-stocked cooler on so everybody can have a cold soft drink or a beer and enjoy another spectacular African sunset. Let's see how I'm doing for time here. Oh, about halfway through. When we finish with our safari portion of the tour, we then fly down to Cape Town. This would take us about 3 days of driving with the bad roads in Africa. So this route should be straight because we fly all the way down to Cape Town. And of course, Table Mountain is the sort of signature mountain there of Table Mountain. And they call this the bowl down here that you see here. I can use my, use my pointer here. This is the bowl, right? This is the sort of downtown area, Cape Town. Cape Town spreads out further out here, but this is the main part of the city here. Just a great city. By the way, they have this phenomenon. I don't know what the meteorological term for it is, but the locals call it the tablecloth, right? You got Table Mountain, and then every once in a while, this cloud sweeps in and just clings to the top of the mesa there. And I'll show you some other pictures of that in a minute, but it's rather dramatic when it happens. Here's their great city hall. There's an old Dutch fort here left over from the 19th century Boer War. Fantastic waterfront. There's Table Mountain again in the background, but just a fun place to just hang out. And of course, we make sure you've got plenty of free time for just that, to explore the waterfront. Very colorful city. Lots of public art. And of course, Robben Island, the boats take off from the waterfront here to visit Robben Island. I do want to be clear about Robben Island. It's not something that we include during the tour. Not that we don't think it's worthwhile. The reason we don't include it is Robben Island does not allow any sort of discount for group booking. So we can't pass on any value to you by including it. So instead, we let this be an optional thing. We help do the booking online ahead of time, helping you with transportation, because we understand that not everybody would prioritize visiting Robben Island, and since we can't add it at value to the tour, we just let it be an option for you. It's an island out in the bay, so you have to take a boat, but beautiful views back. By the way, if you look over here, this is called Lion's Head over here, this little point, and that was the point from which that very first photograph was taken, where it looks across the bowl here, the Cape Town Bowl, and then Table Mountain in the background. The boat ride itself is fun. You might see a whale or two. And visiting Robben Island is not that spectacular in terms of what you will see. But what really makes it special is that the docents that take you around are former inmates. Every single person that you're going to encounter there that works in the facility, in what is now a museum, was once an inmate there. So they're telling stories of torture and beatings and horrible things that really make the experience come alive. This is what I call a proximity experience, right? It's not the resource itself, it's what happened here and the connection to it when you actually stand on that ground. That which I call the proximity factor is what's really powerful here. This is the cell that Nelson Mandela lived in for many, many years. Again, not visually stunning, but the proximity factor, right? Knowing that this is where that great man lived for many years makes it a powerful experience. My favorite neighborhood, and the one that I prefer to stay in with our groups, is Long Street. Long Street is sort of like the Bourbon Street of New Orleans, and you can see I don't mention New Orleans just haphazardly. There is that sort of feel to it. Beautiful buildings that have been restored. Long Street is, it's got bars, restaurants. This is a place called Mama Africa, is very popular with tourists. Love the Snake Bar. All kinds of African handicrafts available. This is a hollowed out ostrich egg and carved. It sits on my desk. This place is called Cafe Africa. Lots of things that are geared to tourists, and they're touristy, but they're the good kind of touristy, right? They come in and do a little bit of face painting for you. And then you have a meal like this that's got kudu and crocodile meat and zebra sausage and a whole bunch of game meats. It's a carnivore's delight. Don't worry, you vegetarians, we can find something else for you. And then this is the hotel that I've mostly used in the past on the tours. It's called Daddy Long Legs, and I love it. It's kind of funky. It's not luxurious, but it's not kind of funky. It's the ultimate funky. Every single room is individually designed by a local artist. So this is a photographer designed this room. Here's the Mona Lisa suite. This one, I don't really know how to describe that, but you see for yourself. Every single room is completely a unique design. And of course, we always have a little open house after we check in. Everybody goes around to see and photograph everybody else's room. I was in the Levi's room one time where it was all decorated with Levi's jeans, and there was even Levi's snap buttons built into a plexiglass toilet seat. Anyway. This is the Bocap neighborhood. I think I mentioned this when we were talking to Todd on Monday. It's a neighborhood so colorful. Look at these pastel colored buildings. We always stop here on our way out of town. We always do it in the morning where you can get that money shot. If you're not picking up the theme here, our tours are not photography tours, but we do allow a lot of deference to photographers. I try to organize every day on Imprint's tours to be in the right place at the right time. If there's a site that faces to the east, I want to make sure we're visiting it in the morning, not in the afternoon where the sun is behind it and ruining your photograph. So just for you amateur photographers out there, we've got your back. And, I love taking pictures too. Bocap, really colorful neighborhood, a lot of fun. We stop here, wander around, poke into a couple of buildings, take some pictures. There's the tablecloth in the background. Speaking of which, this is the big cable car that takes you up to Table Mountain. Here, there's two of them here. And by the way, these are the big ones that hold about 150 people, and they rotate as they go up and down. Up on top, what can you say other than expansive views back down to the city, across the bay to Robben Island, the coast. This is looking to the south. The coast is beautiful heading down to Cape Point. I'll show you images in a minute. And this is literally, I'm going to show you a picture where the tablecloth has swept in. This is the same day. I want to be clear about that. Here's now looking back down into the bowl in the background. And then this is when the tablecloth has swept in. So it is something that can happen anytime. I haven't talked about it yet, but just like Robben Island, we don't include an excursion to Table Mountain, but we totally facilitate it. If on the day that we come back from either of our excursions, the weather is just right, we go straight to Table Mountain and take everybody up. This is the drive now all the way down south to Cape Point. It's beautiful all the way down. This is called the 12 Apostles. I don't know if you count them, whether you actually get 12 peaks there, but this is what it's called. This is a little further south, Hout Bay. Look how beautiful that is. And of course, the destination is the Cape at the southernmost point of Africa. This is the southwesternmost point, and the Cape of Good Hope, very famously named by Vasco da Gama. This is then that final point further down, further south. There's a lighthouse out here, and there's the cable car to take you to the top, or you can hike up if you feel like it. And then as we come back up now on that would be the eastern edge of the Cape, we stop at a place called Boulder Beach, which has been converted into a sanctuary for the penguins. And this is just an adorable stop, right? I mean, it's the beach itself is beautiful, very appropriately named Boulder Beach. But these penguins are just adorable. And again, I have dozens and dozens of shots that I could have chosen from, but suffice to say, fun stop. Our second full day excursion, the first being Cape Point, second full day excursion there from Cape Town is the Cape Winelands, right? To the east of Cape Town is the old Dutch part of South Africa. So you get this Cape, what they call Cape Dutch architecture. We make a quick stop at Drakensberg Prison. Mandela didn't spend much of his incarceration there, but this is where he was when he was finally and permanently, released from prison. So they've put a statue out front there. So we make a stop here, of course. But this is what it looks like, right? This is vineyards that spread out for miles and miles, beautiful mountain scenery. We visit 2 or 3 wineries on our day. One of them makes chocolate as well, so we do a wine and chocolate pairing. Sorry, that's my last shot for Cape Town. A full day of free time, as I said, so that you can visit the waterfront, so you can go out to Robben Island. But for those who are able to participate in the Namibia extension, when we leave Cape Town, we make one stop on the way out of town, looking back one last time to the city there. Get my pointer going here. Table Mountain, Lion's Head, and the bowl right here that I've often described. But another great vantage point as we leave the city heading north into Namibia. So this is the route that we take. This is the entire extension. We leave Cape Town down here in the south. We make one stop still in South Africa, stop at the border, Orange River, Fish River Canyon, Sossusvlei, and then ending up in Windhoek, which is the capital of Namibia and has a good airport at it. The first stop is a place called Clan William, still in South Africa, and right nearby is the Cedarburg Wilderness, where there's these fantastical rock formations. We stop here, we go out and do a little bit of hiking around in the rocks and stop and look at the sand art, right? This is Neolithic period art, rock art, as they say. Pretty fun to stop and see. Again, here's the tour guide money shot. And then we continue on to the Orange River. Orange River. This river in the background here is the border between Namibia and South Africa. Beautiful area. And what we do here is have a little canoe trip on the Orange River. By the way, I always, every time I do a presentation, I always hear from people, you know, I might hear from someone that says, I don't know how to swim. I'd be afraid to get in a canoe. One of the mantras on any imprint tour is nothing is required. Nothing is required. We are always able to make provision for anybody who wants to bow out of an activity that's too adventurous, or that just makes them uncomfortable, or for whatever reason, you're having a bad day, you don't feel well, you need to bow out. Not a problem. By the way, here's Todd right here. For those of you who tuned in this week and saw Todd, there he is in the lead canoe there. And this is a great shot one of my tour members got of sunset that day, looking back across the river. So I just wanted to show you the routing from the border. This is the Orange River here. Felix Camp is where we stay there on the river. And then we stop. This right here is the Fish River Canyon. We stop there, and then we continue on north. And then right about here is a place called Susse's Fly. Gonna knock your socks off when I show you those pictures. And then one long day of driving to get all the way back up to Windhoek. We have a fun dinner together then, and everybody heads home the next day. But this next shot is what I really want to show you about Namibia. I'm all about full disclosure. I never want to hide anything. These are the superhighways of Namibia, okay? From once you cross the border, we will not see a paved road again until we get to be about 20 miles from Windhoek, right? It's all graded gravel roads. So it can be, you know, it's dusty, it's bumpy, it's a little bit rough, right? But the payoff is things like this. Fish River Canyon is, after our own Grand Canyon, the largest canyon in the world. Fish River Canyon. And we always get there at just the right time in the evening to have a little happy hour sunset on the rim. And also a highlight of staying near the canyon is the Canyon Roadhouse. Just love this hotel. Can't promise that we can always get in there, but when we do, it's this funky place where they've got cars as part of the motif. Really fun place to stay. Now, for the highlight of Namibia, and honestly, probably a very close second to Victoria Falls for all of Southern Africa, and maybe all of Africa, is Susse's Fly. There are the world's highest sand dunes. You can see that the sand is red. And of course, we time our visit to get there first thing in the morning so that we're at the gates to the park. It's a national park. When we're at the gates when they open up at 7 a.m. So you're driving from east to west. This is looking north. So the sun is coming up on your right. And look at this. It's like a razor cut of the sun sort of electrifying the red sand on the eastern slope, and then the western slope just disappears into blackness. What a dramatic shot that is. And by the way, I've got about, I don't know, 7 or 8 shots to show you Susse's Fly. There is not a single one that has been photoshopped in any way. These are the shots that you get with your point and shoot camera. This is now looking to the north again, because you've got the sun on your right, on your left when you're facing north, and the shadow on your right. Spectacular dunes. Of course, our ultimate destination is a place called Dead Fly. Dead Fly is the effluviant plain of an old extinct river system, right? So it's where the river used to spread out into a delta, and now it's just a big bowl. I'll show you shots in a minute, but this is a dune on the edge there. And you've got all these old trees that have become petrified by the desert sun, right? This is one of the most arid places in the world now. Todd was mentioning, I think on Monday, that they've had a huge rainfall year and that there's now water around this area. But typically, this is what you see. And again, I want to say it again. These pictures have not been photoshopped. Look at that blue sky. Look at that early morning sun on the red sand, contrasted by this gnarled, petrified trees. This is a photographer's dream. It's truly spectacular. And again, I've got hundreds of these shots, but I didn't want to overwhelm everybody with too many shots of the same thing. Big salt pan at the base there. Just dramatic, dramatic. Here's a pretty good shot of the entire dead fly area, right? All those other close-up shots that I just showed you were taken from down in that salt pan a little bit earlier in the day when the sky was a little bit bluer and the sun was a little bit more electric on the sand. But this gives you a nice overall shot for everybody. Before we leave the park, we go to Sesrim Canyon. Not spectacular, but a fun little hike through the canyon. And then in the area, of course, there is always desert things to do. One of my groups, we all hired the little ATVs and went buzzing around out in the desert. And what really makes this fascinating is the microfauna that exists out there. This snake is tiny, like smaller than your little finger. And so this is a very, very, very close-up shot, and that's just a little bush, not a tree in any way. But we never would have found the snake, but the guide that we had with us just obviously knows the desert like the back of his hand. This little fellow was buried in the sand. I don't know how our guide knew he was there. He just scooped up the sand, and there was this tiny little lizard for him to show to us. Chameleon was a highlight, and one of my tour members got this money shot. So, like I said, just some sort of desert excursion is always possible there. And now the last thing that I think makes for Namibia to be spectacular is, and again, this is an optional activity on the tour because not everybody is willing to go up into a tiny little airplane. But this is about a 5-seat airplane. This is dead fly from an airplane. And I'm telling you, I've been on a lot of scenic flights. The two on this tour, first the helicopter ride over Victoria Falls, and then the flight over the dunes in Namibia, spectacular, spectacular. I'm exhausting my vocabulary of superlatives because really words don't do it justice. And again, and I've got hundreds of pictures. I had to sort through and pick out some of the best, but what an experience to fly over these dunes. Again, you get to see things in a way that you don't have this perspective from the ground. It's just not possible. This again is dead fly, right? You see the trees down here. This is that salt pen base. Not every time, but we have had flights in the past that take us all the way out to the coast. This is where they're actually harvesting salt from the sea. Walvis Bay is a town right on the coast there. You actually can see the wing of the airplane in the top of this shot. And by the way, the place that we stay, Hammersmith Lodge, when we visit Sossusvlei, is it's actually a designated dark area of the planet. I'm probably using the wrong terminology, but it's one of the darkest places on the planet. You're so far from any city or any sources of artificial light. All you have to do is walk 100 yards away from the lodge, and you get dark sky. So if you're lucky to have a new moon night where the moon isn't too bright, the stars that you can see are off the charts, as you can see here from this shot. Namibia is not really a place that's driven by wildlife, but you will see some things while you're there, the ibex, right? And we did see a family of cheetahs. Cheetahs are lone cats. So we knew one morning as we drove, pre-dawn, 4 cheetahs were running down the road in front of us until they split off and jumped under or over fences and disappeared into the brush. So we knew it was a family, a mother and 3 juveniles. This was not them. I mean, nobody got their camera out fast enough. It was a spectacular experience to see a family of 4 cheetahs running down the road in front of us. Certainly for me, one of my wildlife viewing highlights, along with the story of the leopard that I shared with you. And I'm going to finish with the gorillas of Rwanda. Those are 3 easily top 5 game viewing experiences that I've ever had. Anyway, just wanted to show you a picture of a cheetah. because that is possible. There are cheetahs, there are leopards, there's zebras, a few other things. This is called a quiver tree. Namibia is more about the landscape than it is about wildlife. Just want to be clear about that. This is the underside of a great hanging weaver's nest, right? They nest in communities. They've made these, the birds are small, but they've made these huge sort of multi-condo nest facilities. This is probably 12, 14 feet in diameter. I'm standing right underneath it before our guide said, you know, this is where cobras like to hunt eggs. I quickly moved again. This is my last Namibia shot because this is what it looks like every day, right? Every day for miles and miles, a little bit uncomfortable, but the scenery is spectacular every day. Every day it looks like something like this. I mentioned the gorillas. You can do the UGA, the Ugandan Gorilla Adventure extension attached to the Southern Africa tour. It's not as convenient as when we do East Africa. And the more that I've talked about the gorillas in East Africa, I realize we need to get that back on the calendar. So probably fall of 2022 for those of you who'd like to do East Africa. But we do have Southern Africa on the calendar for this fall in case anybody's interested. Beginning of September, and it is possible to fly into Rwanda, see the gorillas, and then fly on down to Victoria Falls. It's just not convenient, right? And you can, if you're interested in that, send me an email, and I will give you the details. This is one of the silverbacks. For anybody who tuned in on Wednesday when I had Anne Curia, who helps facilitate us, she was talking about one of the main points she made about experiencing the gorillas is how much they're like our distant yet removed cousins, right? They are so human-like. Look at this mother with her little baby on her back, and here, not a great sharp photograph, but a picture of the mother playing with the baby, or I don't know, she might have been actually picking insects or fleas off of him. But they're just like humans in the way that they move and act and engage you there as humans. Now, sorry that this picture is so washed out, but what I want to show you is how close you get to these incredibly powerful, majestic beasts. It's hard to get a little perspective there, but what do you think? I'd say that's a maximum of 20 feet behind Maya and me, that there's a big silverback just having a little rest on his elbow there. Absolutely amazing experience. This is my closing shot. I want to wrap up talking about Africa here. I just want to put this up on the screen. The last line there is the URL for the Southern Africa tour page.